My name is Parth Shah, and today I will be discussing with you how to make markets work for the poor. Some people earn better living for themselves than the others. Some are richer than the others. Why is that the case? Is it all because of the knowledge and skills they have? Is it all because of the difference in the kind of background and connections they have? Or is it because of some artificial barriers which impede in their path? We can call them regulatory barriers. Once you begin to analyze the reasons for why some people earn a better living than the others, you can see a list of arguments. What I want to focus today with you is on the regulatory barriers that prevent people from accessing markets and thereby earning a better living for themselves. And those barriers have existed in India's history for everyone, but after 1991 reforms, we removed those barriers for the formal industry, the formal sector. But those barriers remain even today for the informal sector, for agriculture, at least particularly for the small landholding farmers, right? And also for the communities that depend on forest. So those are the areas, people of India who are not able to access those markets because of artificial barriers. And therefore, I want to argue with you, they are poor. The common refrain that you hear is that rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. The assumption is that the rich are actually taking from the poor, and therefore poor are the remaining poor or becoming poorer. What I want to suggest to you is that the rich are getting richer primarily because they have access to markets. They have the higher degree of economic freedom to engage in the marketplace to earn their living. While the poor are not able to become rich, largely because of the fact that they don't have access to markets, their degree of economic freedom is far lower. And the difference that you see in the income is linked to the degree of economic freedom that the people enjoy. Those who enjoy high degree of economic freedom usually do better than those who do not. Let me give you an example. There is an old woman in the nearby market who has been selling flowers, and she has been doing it for the last 15 years. Her business has not grown. She has the same tokery or a small basket that she has been using for 15 years to sell flowers and make a living for herself. You can ask yourself, why hasn't she been able to grow in that business? Why hasn't her business gone from small basket to a bigger basket and maybe to even bigger proper space to sell flowers? The answer could be many. It could be because she doesn't have the capacity to grow. Maybe she doesn't have access to finance. She doesn't know how to market it better. So there could be many reasons why she is not able to grow as a flower seller. But one reason, and this is one that I want to highlight for you because this is something that we can do something about immediately. This is a reason that is created by us and we can remove that reason that's a barrier in her path. And that reason is the license that she needs to be a street vendor. In the cities and towns of India, you can open a factory, you can open a company, you can open any other business. But to be a vendor, to be a street vendor, you need a local license from the local government. If you don't have a license, then you are an illegal or at least informal operator. What happens when you are informal? Well, the police enforces the license requirement by raiding. They will bring a van in the market and catch all the vendors who are sitting in that market informally. Now, when the van comes, your first job is to grab whatever you have and run and hide. Right? I have seen that with my own eyes. I'm sure probably you also have seen that with your own eyes. What happens in this police raid? Right? When the police is gone, of course, those vendors who were not impounded, who were not affected, will come back and the life will go on as usual. You also know that people pay a bribe or a hafta to the police. Right? In this city of Delhi, it ranges somewhere between 100 rupees a month to some places is up to 5,000 rupees a month. What is important to note is that even after paying the hafta, paying the regular bribe to the police, you are still not legal. You still don't have a license. And so next police raid, you are still open to the same harassment as you were without paying the hafta. What this means in practical life is the size of your business is limited forever to the reach of your arms. If your arms can reach this far, the size of business will be only this much. Right? Because if the business grows anything bigger than that, the next police raid and you would lose your goods. You would not be able to grab everything and run. So what the license has done is not just require payment of hafta, payment of the bribe that people do pay, but have condemned the poor, have condemned the street vendors to live on a subsistence level. They cannot earn much bigger income from a small size of business. To earn bigger income, they need to grow the business, but they cannot grow the business as long as they remain without a license. The only way and the best way to help this woman who sells flowers is to make her legal, give her the license, and thereby allow her to grow to the extent that she can. Why do poor almost always operate in the informal market? Or why are their enterprises are not legally registered? Very simple reason for that is the minimum capital requirement. The government requires 1 lakh rupee to be deposited in a bank account before he can register the business. A poor person is unlikely to have that kind of money when he's starting a small business, and therefore only thing they can do is to start an informal business, a business which is not legally registered with the government. A simple change in the law, which government fortunately did recently, allows now the poor to also start a legal business without having to deposit 1 lakh rupee in advance in the bank account. Simple laws of this kind, these are the regulatory barriers that exist. Once you begin to remove one by one, you see how poor not only can do enterprise, but also do enterprise in a legally recognized manner. They don't have to operate in the informal market. They can be part of the formal market. The farmers of India are committing suicide. They are not doing well for themselves. Why is that the case? Why aren't farmers able to earn a better remuneration for the crop that they grow and sell in the market? There are two particular laws which make this possible or make it impossible for farmers to earn a better living. One is the Essential Commodities Act, and the second is the APMC Act, which is the Agriculture Produce Marketing Committee Act. Those are the two acts which have created huge barriers in the path of farmers in earning a better living for themselves. So the Essential Commodities Act puts tremendous controls over storage, transport, export of commodities. That means, for example, that a sugarcane farmer in Maharashtra would not be able to take sugarcane across the district line without the collector's permission. Now imagine that a market for the sugarcane for that farmer is just that district. He has to sell sugarcane within the district. And normally, as you can imagine, there's one sugar mill in the district that is going to buy that sugarcane from the farmer. So farmer has no place to go but to sell sugarcane to one single buyer in the market. So the restrictions on the transport of commodities is one of the worst kind of restriction that keeps farmers poor in India. Second restriction, which is the APMC Act, that requires the farmers can sell produce only at the authorized mandis, the wholesale markets in the country. Now, within the market, there are authorized agents who are authorized to buy produce from the farmers, and these agents can collude among themselves and thereby give a very lower price to the farmers while they're able to charge much higher price from the consumers. So what consumers pay, much of that goes to the middleman and not to the farmer. And farmer is not able to earn a better living for himself. These are the barriers that we have put in the path of the farmers, and these barriers have been there for a long, long time. We have reformed many areas of the Indian economy, but not agriculture. And unless we reform these parts of the laws and make farmers free to be able to transport, store, and export their produce, we would not be able to help them earn a better living for themselves. As you know, 60% of the India's population depends on agriculture. And agriculture makes up 20% of the India's GDP. That means the 60% population depends on the 20% of the GDP. It tells you quite clearly that this is not a sustainable situation. The people who depend on agriculture would not be able to earn a better living for themselves, even if they were able to get all the 20% GDP for themselves. What's the way out? What can I do as a farmer who is not doing well by being a farmer? Well, I can exit agriculture and do something else. Would I be able to sell my land? Who can buy my land? What can they do with the land? All of these are, again, tremendous barriers for the farmer. I can only sell the land to other farmer, but to nobody else. I cannot convert easily my farmland or agricultural land into any other use, like residential use or commercial use. And therefore, my options of even exiting agriculture are quite limited. Now, assume that some farmer wants to buy my land, but the farmer will not be able to buy much of the land because there's a Land Ceiling Act that prevents that farmer from acquiring large tracts of land and becoming a much bigger farmer, and thereby maybe becoming more productive in farming and be able to earn a better income for himself. All of the restrictions about who can purchase farmland, what can we do with the farmland in terms of other uses, and the Land Ceiling Act prevent farmers from exiting agriculture. As we saw, they do not earn better living for themselves by being a farmer. Now you see that they cannot even exit farming and do something else for themselves, given the laws that we have. We discussed several examples of artificial barriers or regulatory barriers that prevent the poor from accessing markets. It is the lack of that access to the market is what's, in a sense, keeping them poor, or at least not allowing them to grow to the extent that they could have grown. How do we change this situation? What do we need to do so that poor also are able to enjoy access to markets as much as the rich are able to do? One way that we have been trying to implement in India is the ease of doing business. Right? Make it easier for people to open and run businesses. There are many barriers, many licensing requirements which stop people from opening a legal business. What I want to suggest to you that even narrower than ease of doing business, a simple test that can be applied to all rules and regulations that we have. And by applying that test, we could decide what change needs to be made in that rule or regulation. Right? And that test is, or at least what I would call, is a Livelihood Freedom Test. What we need to do is to ask ourselves, does any part of this rule or regulation prevent or make it difficult for an honest person to earn an honest living? If it does, then that's what we need to modify. Right? That's a very quick and easy way to implement the idea of ease of doing business. What we should fight for and what we need to do is to apply the Livelihood Freedom Test to all rules and regulations and free the poor to make a better living for themselves. Gurugram is a thriving suburb of Delhi. How did Gurugram come about? What is at the heart of the origin of Gurugram? Let me give you a quick story. The many companies are looking for a place to start call centers. They realize that they cannot operate call centers at night because many of the labor laws and the Social Establishment Act did not allow people to work at night. They reached out to many of the state governments with the problem they had. Haryana happens to be one of the first states to listen to that complaint, that concern, and decided to amend the act. That simple amendment in the Act allowed call centers to get established in Gurugram, what is now today's Gurugram. As one call center started, many others followed, and just slowly Gurugram began to build up as a successful big metropolis. A regulatory barrier that existed earlier did not allow this market to be used in India. By removing that barrier, we created a completely new opportunity to generate wealth and thereby help people to earn a better living for themselves in the city of Gurugram.